This industry is predicted to become the next trillion-dollar industry. Paul Zine Pilsner, anybody heard of Paul Zine Pilsner? Okay, wrote a book, The Next Trillion, predicting that health and wellness coupled with e-commerce marketing, direct sales, network marketing is the next trillion-dollar industry. So if you're going to be a part of the billion-dollar company, you'd love to be a part of a billion-dollar or trillion-dollar industry. So NHT, when we started back in 2001, initially our vision, when we started just with one product, was to ultimately get into multiple markets around the world with multiple products. That was in 01 when we started, and it was tough in North America when we got started. That first year, we had a lot of challenges, a lot of issues, similar to what we had in Europe when we first started here in Europe. The same thing that we had when we started in Ireland. You remember when we started, Fergus, here in Ireland. But so much has changed in our industry. Today it's a lot more fashionable in what we're doing with our industry. If you look at another book that I had read, The World is Flat, by Thomas Friedman. Thomas Friedman wrote this book about 12 years ago, 13 years ago, and in The World is Flat, he's saying that basically you're going to have equal opportunity in the future by this. If your business model with your business is not planning on doing business in China or the emerging markets in the future, you're going to get left behind. So what was happening is that there was change. Where business was local, now it's becoming global. 1989, Paul Zane Pilsner, one of the top economists in the world, sat on the Bush and Reagan administration, wrote a book called Unlimited Wealth. And he talked about where wealth was going to be created in the 90s and the 21st century in three areas: distribution, communication, and technology. Was he right? He was dead on. So when you started looking at how things were changing, and I saw all of this, because I got involved in the industry in '88, and didn't understand the industry, because I came from traditional business. How many people have owned their own business? Okay, how many people have just worked for a company and not owned their own business? Anybody done both? Yeah, because that's what I had done both. But seeing this industry, it was completely different than anything I'd ever seen. And the strength that we found with this is having your own business, because you're basically in business for yourself, but you're not by yourself. If you take a look of how we bought stuff and sold stuff years ago, how did this all start? Like where we ended up with e-commerce distribution. If you go back 200 years ago, how did you buy stuff? Where did you buy it? You bought it at a shop, you bought it at a store, or you bought it from somebody. Then what happened? About 50 years, 75 years later, which was about 125, 150 years ago, what started to happen? Department stores. How were department stores accepted? In the beginning, they weren't broadly accepted. They were ridiculed. They were opposed. Then eventually it was self-evident. What came next? About 75 years ago, franchising. That was the next one. How was franchising accepted? Was not accepted, not embraced. It was one vote from Congress in the United States deemed illegal. So what's franchising doing today? It's one of the greatest means of distribution, but they're saying this industry will eclipse franchising within the next 10 years. It's virtual franchising. And I'll share with you one of the reasons and the dynamics why. So if you go back to the department store industry and where that ended up, what's the #1 department store in the world?
Walmart.
Walmart. What's the #1 franchise in the world?
McDonald's.
McDonald's. Do they have Nobel Prize winning products at McDonald's? If you work at McDonald's, do you make a lot of money? It's the same thing at Walmart. But what are they doing? They're getting their products to the masses. If you want to dine with the classes, get to the masses. They started to do it with department stores. It evolved into franchising. What have we got today? What has been the biggest movement in the last 12 to 15 years in terms of distribution, moving stuff? E-commerce. Last year it was 18%. Not growing, not a wave, a tsunami. How is Alibaba doing? How is Amazon doing? There's no end in sight. So what's happened, and here's another book. Think of these, I just read this stuff and it all starts to make sense. The book Abundance by Peter Diamandis. In his book, he said, a farmer in Kenya today has got access to more information than the President of the United States did 25 years ago. Is that crazy? The world is flat. You know, what Friedman was talking about in his book? So that means an equal playing field. And think how big this is. Equal playing field for the people in the emerging markets. Now gender equality. Remember, I was just talking about what women are making in our industry. 82% of the millionaires and six-figure income earners in North America are doing it in this industry. All of this stuff starts coming together. Now, I've been involved in the industry since '88. So from '88 to 2001, it was kind of localized. And if you wanted to go global, you had to get on a plane. And if you wanted to have... When I got started in the industry in '88, '89, '90, '91, if you got business outside of your area code, it was like 2001 Odyssey. It was, unbelievable to have your business outside of your own area code. Today, part-time people in our business will be in multiple countries and markets within a year, and they haven't left their town because of e-commerce distribution as the funnel, as the model to deliver. So this is what we started to see with this industry and how this industry was growing and exploding. And it started in '01 and '02. I did the first meeting with NHT Global, the first presentation. I hosted the first event. That was in Toronto. I hosted the first event, which was in Las Vegas. Signed up the first distributor, sold the first product. We only had one product back in 2001, Allura. You guys, we had a black and white brochure, a website that didn't work, and we had Allura. My father's a United Church, my late father, United Church minister. And I remember sharing that with my parents that one Sunday night when Mom asked, so Danny, what are you selling now? It was a brief conversation, but her response after I shared her what it was, I just basically said it was a female version of Viagra. She just says, Charles, he's going to save a lot of marriages. I thought, oh my God, I'm just getting chills saying that. But what happened is I realized what we had was a product that was going to do, and our product vision was to have products that would do the most for the least amount of money for the most amount of people, getting to the masses. And that was that initial vision that has been taken over by Chris Sharn. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second in terms of our leadership and how powerful Chris has been in surrounding himself with such a great, powerful corporate team that we have with NHT. So it wasn't easy that first year in North America. We were shut down a couple of times. I don't know if you guys were aware of this, just the issues that we went through as a company. We've done nearly $2 billion in sales. We're now a Fortune, not 1,500, 100 company, as a lot of you know. Not once, twice, basically 3 years in a row. It was a mulligan, 3 years ago when we were 2, we weren't 1. That's insane, for us to have that. Our e-commerce business model that moves this stuff around the world is being taught at the finest business schools in the Far East, University of Shanghai, Beijing, and Guangzhou. And they're teaching this e-commerce business model. So when I'm sharing this with you as leaders, as people, as distributors, and for guests for the first time, how big this is. This is big because where we're going is basically 7 billion people that you can take the product to. That's a big customer base, isn't it? Potential. What's even bigger is that you'll be able to sign up 7 billion people and have them as a part of your team. Think about this. How hungry is that person in Nigeria going to be? How hungry is that Kenyan farmer who's never had an opportunity? That guy in New Delhi, or the people that are in Peru. We had a gal, when we launched Peru in South America just last year, she came from a village, and we've got e-commerce as our distribution model. Her name is Concepcion, and in 30 days, she hit rank 5. She came from, and for guests, that is the halfway up our compensation plan, our international recognition program. And I can say this, from a compliance standpoint, our highest position, which is rank 9, that's global ambassador, to qualify for that position, you're basically earning $1 million a year. This young lady, she hit that position, rank 5, which is halfway there in 30 days. She came from a village with no running water and no electricity. Unbelievable. So the point with that is that they're so hungry in these markets for an opportunity. They want a shot. So I know some of the toughest times I've had in sponsoring a building business is in the mature markets, like in Toronto or in New York or in Los Angeles. You know, they're too cool. But when you get into these other markets where they're very, very hungry, it is powerful. And you're changing people's lives with these products. In a lot of cases, we're saving people's lives. And we can say that. It's happened to me. By the way, I've got a STEM Renew testimonial. Do you guys want to hear it?
Yes.
Yes, Fergus is going to like this one. You don't know this one, Fergus. So when I first heard about STEM Renew, I've known these two incredible people for some time. I got to know them, I heard about their product, and I was a part of it happening, them coming here. Fergus, I know you were part of that too. But what blew me away, I mean, the integrity of these two was impeccable, but it was the stories, the testimonials of the people. It just blew me away. And I thought, my God, if they had the proper vehicle, if they had the right vehicle, and surely, you know, they do today. So when I got on STEM a couple years ago, I didn't take a lot of it because I work out every single day, just about every day, and I feel like I'm in pretty good shape. And I didn't think anything was going to happen. I didn't really need it. Well, I didn't realize it. I talked to Doc knows about this. We're on the phone. I had trigger finger, just a little thing. Has anybody heard of trigger finger? It's the weirdest. It is the weirdest thing, especially when you get it. Your finger gets stuck. Like it'll just get down here, and you've got to literally do this. I said, Doc, what is it? He said, age. I didn't want to hear this. So anyways, that was a couple years ago. Anyways, it's gone. My finger, all my fingers, I can do whatever I want with it. Test me, yeah. So I can do anything I want with all those fingers. So I had that, and then I had an issue with my back, and that has gone. I've only had one blip on the back in 2 years, and I was having it. It's because I played so many sports, Canadian, hockey player, blah, blah, and played football. I did everything, and I continued doing everything, you know. It just kept on going. But I didn't know what I had wrong with me until I took the products. So the back issues went away. And I could play golf because I couldn't when the back was out. So the latest one was a torn rotator cuff. I know you know about this. So I had anybody know someone who's had a torn rotator cuff? Yeah. So I talked to Doc, and he said, stem cell therapy and bump the stem. Okay, STEM Renew. Because my surgeons back in Canada said, hey, you got to go get surgery. And I said, what about stem cell therapy? He couldn't spell it. So I said, I'm not talking to him. So I talked more to Doc, and he said the best science and all of that is down in the United States. And I have a home in South Florida in the winter, and that's where I go. Anyways, got it done, and bumped the stem, doubled the stem, which is another thing, which leads me to the fourth thing that happened, which you talked about. And you don't know about this, by the way. It's pretty cool. So anyways, if you talk to a guy, an athlete that has had shoulder surgery, they go through hell, excuse my English. It's horrible. The recovery, 90 days in a sling. 3 of my buddies, 90 days in a lazy boy chair, couldn't sleep with their spouse. They said that was all right. It's for 3 months. It was because they couldn't move. It was ridiculous. I literally, it was like going to the dentist. I mean, I walked in, walked out. I was feeling better immediately, but I doubled everything on the stem. And I wanted to be golfing by the Masters. That was within 2 months. My surgery was on the February 5th, and I was literally in the driving range within a couple of weeks. I was in the gym in less than a week. It was incredible. I couldn't believe it. The last one, which you talked about earlier, was sleeping. I'm a fairly high energy guy, and this road trip, it was important that I get my rest and get my sleep. So 3 nights ago, I taken my regular dosage, something happened. And I've never done this in my 30 years traveling. I slept through 2 alarms. Like I was supposed to get up at 7:30, I woke up at 11. This is in Sweden. It was insane how good I felt. It wasn't fair. I felt that good. I thought, well, this is going to change. That was just a fluke. The following night, which was 2 nights ago, I had the alarm for 7:30, do all my work and everything else. I got up at 11:45, nearly noon. I was up at the crack of noon. So I now have another issue. How do I wake up? Anyways, we've resolved that, so that's not a problem. But it really is a remarkable, remarkable product. So, gang, when you look at these incredible companies that came before us, from the Walmarts to the franchises, all of these companies that had products that weren't like this. But you get a vehicle like this in this industry that can hit the entire world through virtual franchising. Now that's another thing. You get a McDonald's franchise, what is it going to cost you? Class A, A1 franchise in the United States is several $100,000. Level playing field, every person has a shot here. They can start their own virtual franchise for $200 to $300 to $400 if they wanted to. As a lot of you know, we recommend the Platinum package. It's our superior, it's the highest package that we have. But still, that's, a couple of $1,000s. It's still refundable. So the industry that we have is limitless and endless. It's powerful. The industry with what we have, and then to have this company, to have these kinds of products, gang, this is why I'm pretty excited. So if you feel a little bit frustrated in your own little town because you've got, and I say own little town, I say that respectfully, in my city back in Toronto or back in Miami in my winter home, if I have people that don't see it the way I see it, or they don't get registered, they just don't get involved, that's okay. There's a lot more people out there that will see it. So, gang, understand the power of this industry. Number 2 is our company. That's the next one that we're going to go to here. I think for a lot of you, and I've covered a lot of this, in terms of record setting, our numbers are crazy. You've seen them, nearly a couple of billion, and most of that has happened in the last 6 or 7 years. So I've covered a lot of that in terms of our numbers, but when you're sharing the business with other people, what has helped us so much is being publicly traded. Privately held companies can get away with a lot, but when you're public, it's fully transparent. They can see everything, they know everything, and it makes your job that much easier. So it's powerful. For us to become $1 billion, and this is where we're going, $1 billion company in annualized sales. Right now, our initial goal was to get to $1 billion in sales, but we got to 2. Our goal is to get to $1 billion in annualized sales. $1 billion vision. I shared this on the outset too. For you to get wherever you want to go, certainly having that initial vision. If you want to use an analogy here with the UK, with Ireland, England. By the way, I don't know this. Are you guys part of the UK? Okay, I'm just using it. Whoa. Yeah. Right. Okay. So I'm going to move on with that one. Understanding how big our vision was initially, if you considered Europe the tree, if you were given an acorn, in your respective market, somebody gave you an acorn. What do you see? Well, I see a tree. Really what you see, what you ultimately have here, is the force, and the force is the world. Because I can promise you, in 5 years, part-time, full-time, doing this business, 90% of your business, if you never left your country, will be coming from outside of your country. I know Joe Garcia. A lot of you know Joe. For new people here, that's my business partner. He woke up one morning and he shared it with his wife, Margaret. He said, Margaret, do you know that we make more money, I do, we do, when I'm asleep. We make more money when we're asleep than when we're awake. She just paused and she says, go back and sleep. That's a true story. Huge vision here. $1 billion business model. And our business model is that. To become this multi-billion dollar company, you need to have that model to do it. McDonald's success is not the compensation, what they pay their people. It's not the products, the performance of their products. It's their business model. It's the same thing with Walmart. It's their marketing, and that's pretty important. $1 billion products. I'm going to cut right to this. This is good for you to share with people that you're introducing the business to. When we started to graduate into other products, you don't do 2 billion by accident. This was all done by design. But when we started with a flagship product, and our first 2 products that we had, Allura, female version of Viagra, completely natural, no side effects, no prescription, no drug, da-da-da-da. Wonderful product. Topical product. Skindulgence. Topical product. So when you go into other countries and other markets, you don't have to, it doesn't take as long to get approvals and registrations because they're topical products. Products that you ingest take a lot longer. Sometimes it takes years. So what we did in leading with flagship products, those 2 products that no one had, we felt they would have, and everybody could afford, we were able to get into other markets quickly. When we did that with the flagship, got the approvals, got the registration, developed the relationship with those respective governing bodies and countries, we start to bring in the fleet of other products. So this was the unfair advantage that we had with all of the competition, because most of the competition had basically consumable type products that they had to swallow, digest, ingest, and they led with that. And it was hard for them to get into other countries very quickly. Do you follow me on this? Okay, this was powerful. So when we brought in the fleet of products, were they easy to demonstrate for the average person that, say, wasn't a salesperson? Yes, our products were demonstratable. They were also retailable. So when you went out and retailed the product, you could earn a significant commission and income just selling the products. Also, in terms of the consumability, that is the core foundation of our products in your business. Long term, having repeat, reorder business. And for guests that are here tonight, that example that I shared with you, people are going to take the products for the rest of their lives. So one-time sale, lifetime income in the consumability. But stronger than that, when you have impact consumable products. So a consumable product would be like toothpaste, milk, Kellogg's Corn Flakes, etc., etc., etc. There's so many types of products that are consumable, but if, say, your child or yourself stop using the product, you can easily go to another product. Most of ours that we have, if you stop taking STEM, what happens? It'll impact your life in a negative way. If you continue taking it, it impacts your life in a positive way. So most of our products are impact consumable type products. That is the strength of that long term. So in terms of mix, a lot of people, when they first look at our business and they look at the products, and most companies that are out there do not have this lineup, especially STEM do, and they don't have Doc and Tina, right? No. Now, another round of applause for Doc and Tina. Okay, next one, new products. How cool is introducing new products? Well, take a look at McDonald's again. There's a couple of analogies on this, and I've really had to keep this shorter and to the point on this, but McDonald's, when they introduced, now think about this from a business standpoint. Say you have a distributor and a customer base of several hundred people or several thousand people over a few years that are ordering their products over and over. What happens when they introduce new products? I'll give an example. McDonald's, when they introduced McChicken and McPizza, you know the first 30 days when they introduced those two products? They became the largest distributor of chicken and pizza in North America, outselling all of the competition combined. So when you have that distribution base of customers, say you're part-time, and you did this business, guests that are here that are part-time, and you build this business over the next 2 to 3 years, and you've got several hundred satisfied customers, happy, satisfied customers, and you drop in another product, what happens to your business? 30 years ago, 31 years ago, a year before I got involved in this industry, I didn't know what Amway was. I just thought it was a cult. I thought it was illegal. I thought crazy people, that's all. And I'm talking to this guy at a social. I was a bachelor at the time, I'll never forget it. And I'm talking to this guy, and I didn't know he was in the company. Somebody told me what it was later, because he said this to me. He was one of the first millionaires I ever met, because they said, you got to talk to this guy. So having the conversation with the guy, he's making $1 million a year. He was earning a 7-figure income 30 years ago. And I was broke then too. Anyway, how great he was. It's crazy. And people ask, my wife, like, what did you see in him? Because I was living with his parents, he's on government assistance, and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, I'm sitting there talking to this guy. And we were talking about our business, because I was in the corporate world at that time, in the fashion business. And we're sort of comparing notes. And I didn't really understand what he was doing. But he said what he was most excited about was this new product they introduced. I said, what is it? He said, toilet paper. I said, why are you so excited about that? He said, my income went up over $10,000 a month when they introduced toilet paper. Think about this. In layman's terms, if you've got 2 fish bowls, you got 10 fish in this fish bowl, you got 10,000 fish in that fish bowl. You're getting paid on the fish food when it starts being dropped in. Which fish bowl do you want? Over time, you've got incredible products. You have incredible corporate leadership. You've got great leadership here in this room. Over time, not overnight, but over time, build this customer base, build this distributor base. We are going to continue to introduce new products. Watch what happens to your business. So, it's an important part of the cog of us and the pillar of our business. And when you look at McDonald's and you look at Walmart, and I use this as an example because everyone can relate to it, is that it fit a demographic. They weren't superior products, but it fit that demographic, that family, the masses, etc., etc. How do we get paid? Our compensation plan, and this is important for people that looking at this, understanding your business, it basically does 3 things. Number 1, it's helping the brand new part-time person who wants to earn an extra few $100s or maybe $1,000 a month part-time. How many people know someone who could use an extra $1,000 a month? Is there anybody? Okay. Does anybody know someone who could use an extra $10,000 a month? Who's not going to raise their hand no matter what I say? So compensation is doing 1. Retailing the product, selling the product, and you're just sharing it. You're really not selling it. You share it. Let the product sell itself. It's the best way. Number 2, person that's transferring. They're transitioning from part-time to maybe full-time. We have the business model built in that with a compensation plan to help people do that. And are we talking about that tonight, some of the things that we're introducing that we did in Sweden?
No.
No? I guess very soon then, right?
Well, we'll just be with
Got
bringing the information into
Got it. Okay, you're going to love it. So, going from part-time to full-time, And then for someone who is going full-time, do they have a career opportunity? I'm going to share with you some of the incentives and promotions and bonuses that we have with that. But here's what's key. In the compensation, remember this business knows no distance, right? E-commerce, it knows no distance. So if you register somebody in Dublin, who knows somebody in Belfast, who knows somebody in Moscow, who knows somebody in Hong Kong, who knows somebody in Toronto, who knows somebody in Miami, that's about 6, 7 people. In every other compensation plan, basically in the industry, and there's 3 of them, besides ours, for new people, some of the veterans that we've got, there's basically 4 plans, what they call a breakaway plan, a matrix plan, and a unilevel plan. What they do is they pay in levels and generations. So after you go down 6, 7 levels or generations, it stops. But if you want your business to go around the world, you don't want it to stop, right? Why not get paid on volume, regardless? So our business pays on volume, straight volume all the way down. Most of those other plans, you're a mile wide in building your team, but you're only a 1/4 inch deep. Here, you can be a 1/4 inch wide, and you're a mile deep, and it'll pay you for life. So remember the long term and how this goes. The new markets, which I'm going to talk about here in a second, and what, well, yes, I'm going to share some things with you about the new markets. Technology. Technology, it needs to be cutting edge, and we've got cutting edge technology being on the forefront. As far as a company within the industry, we could not do what we're doing right now without technology. And we had the finest e-commerce system in the beginning with back offices, which I didn't understand in 2001. How many people 18 years ago had a computer in their home? Can you remember? I didn't. When we launched, and I did my first presentation in Toronto, we had 100 people in the room. And that 100 people that we had in the room, do you know how many had a computer? And these were direct sales giants that we had brought in to start the business with NHT. Less than 10. A year later, it was 30%. So it was less than 10%, went to 30%. So we were cutting edge at that time in terms of technology having a back office. But what a change. You know, when you take a look at Bill Gates' book, The Road Ahead, in 1994, he predicted that everyone would have a computer in their home in the 21st century. Steve Jobs took it a step further with what? The iPhone. So from the computer to the home, to the phone, to your purse and your pocket, people can buy and sell. And the younger people today know that better than any of us. So we're on top of the technology, in the global system, which we had covered earlier. New markets. Powerful. We just opened Malaysia. We are now opening up Vietnam. We're in the throes of looking at possibly, and it's going to happen, India, 1.4 billion people. It's going to happen, it's just a matter of time. Africa, 1.4 billion people there, just a matter of time. How hungry are those people going to be there for an opportunity? So these new markets is where we're going ultimately long term. Incentives and promotions, huge. A survey was done 2 years ago in Europe and in North America, and they got a wish list of the families and the couples in Europe and in North America, and what did they wish for? What were some of the dreams that they had? What was on their wish list? And the first thing that they had was what? What did families ultimately want to have? Number one, not so much in terms of communication, love obviously, but what did they want?
Freedom.
Correct. They wanted the time, the freedom. They wanted to be together, have time together. Second one was financial independence, financial freedom. Third, the dream vacation, being able to go away. Dream home, dream education, and dream car. Our incentives and promotions that we have in our IRP, International Recognition Program, and our Supreme Bonus Program address all of that, including having stock in a publicly traded company that was Fortune 100 3 years in a row, basically number one. So incentives and promotions, marketing and innovation. Anyone heard of Peter Drucker? Anybody heard of Peter? Recognized in the last century as probably the foremost leading philosopher, business thinker, philosopher in the United States. Said the key to business long-term was marketing and innovation. Remember we talked about marketing at McDonald's and Walmart, but innovation, adapt and adjust to change. So we as a company will always be prepared to adapt and adjust to markets. You know, Antonella, we're discussing this all the time, different incentives, different promotions, what we can do. So this is a progressive company and a progressive business with a progressive opportunity. Leadership. Between Joe and I, this is my buddy Joe. Joe Garcia, anybody know Joe? Yep. That's me over there. Yeah. So between the two of us, we've got over 50 years experience in the field full time. This is all we do. I feel the leadership that we have in the field is the best. And then I'm talking about the leadership that we've got here, that we have in the rest of, not yet in England, right? Are they ever left behind here, aren't they? They are behind you guys. And the Scots are too.
Absolutely.
Yes, they are. Yeah. We've got tremendous leadership around the world, but the leadership that we have in corporate, I feel is some of the finest that we have in the industry. And it is incredibly critical, long-term, that you have the integrity and the credibility. But us as a publicly traded company, you are safeguarded by that as a distributor. As you're bringing new people into the business, talking to people about the business, you're protected through that. But the integrity that we have at the top of the ship with Chris Sharn and that inner circle is incredible. So we do everything we can to serve you, Joe and myself, and Garth Wright, Thomas, Dalibor, and the lovely Sonia at the back. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Sonia. Let's give her a round of applause again. She's such a perfectionist. As soon as I saw her, she says, "Don, we should have had more people. We should have had more people." Yeah, and I get that. I'm the same way. Potential. What is the potential? Gang, where's our home office? Where's the head office? California, Los Angeles. Our older first head office was in Dallas. The first event was in Las Vegas. The first presentation was in Toronto. Those 4 cities, 99% of the people in those cities have never heard of our company, heard of our products. 0. 99%. They've never heard of us. How big is the opportunity? It's huge. So, you know, it's interesting. My late father, who's a pastor, United Church minister, he'd always said, you know, when I talked to him when I was a young boy, he'd say, "Dad, you know, why, you know, this world is messed up sometimes." And he said, you know, his mentor and his son JC, when they put this big old place together, he said he, you know, felt they did a pretty good job, but they're still working on some stuff. But he said the one gift that God has given us and given you is the power of choice. And today, with this opportunity, you're given that. And I've said this before, is that, you know, when the student is ready, the teacher arrives. Well, the teacher's here. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yeah.
I'll ask you one more time. Are you ready? Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. Give me a round of applause. I've abbreviated this presentation. The last one we did this with our group was in Sweden, Gothenburg, 3 days ago. It was on Saturday, and it went from 10 until 5. This one was, you know, whatever that was. It's like 6 hours, right? Or my number 7 hours? Yeah, that was the conversion, I think. So it's 7 hours, and we, you know, wanted to do it in 2 here. So I've had to kind of rip through this. But I want to leave you with this in terms of what you do with brand new people, because there's a number of guests here. Guests, remember this, and I think I'm looking at some guests here. There's some really nice looking guests that we've got here, a great looking group. We really do. We've got a great looking group here. Is when I got started 30 years ago, I did not understand this business. I did not understand the industry. I had no clue what to do. But the young guy that was making that kind of money, $170,000 a month, he was only 24 years old. I didn't understand anything that day, but I understood that. And it wasn't so much the money, it was the lifestyle and it was the freedom. It was the freedom and the independence to get up when you want, do what you want, not owned anymore. And I went through that in corporate where I had to work 7 days a week, you know, getting up when it was dark, getting home when it was dark. When I owned my own business, it owned me. I wanted that freedom. So when I saw this industry, I saw that's what I wanted. I believed two things. One, that there was an opportunity. Number two, I believed I could do it. And I just knew I was going to figure it out. The critical, I'm going to just share a few simple things here with you. Getting started, which I did, because I had a successful start. It said, Dan, first of all, you need desire. Write it down. Desire is critical. You can't do this unless you want it. Number two, you will have to go to work, but you won't have to work for 45 years. He said to me, my mentor, Jeff Roberti, back years ago, he said, do what you have to. For just a few years, you'll be in a position to do what you want for the rest of your life. So I paid a price for a number of years, and it worked out. There's a gentleman here that knew me way back then, Joe. Joe just came up to me at the break and hasn't seen me since those early days. And I think we were in Las Vegas, I guess.
My first one, but I was also
In
in
nine-
Tampa, I was also in Memphis, but you may have been left Tennessee.
Yeah, but it was in 1992, I think,
Yes.
that you and I saw each other. And you talked about Jeff Roberti, who's the guy that taught me the basics of the business. And I've never forgotten that. So it was that willingness to work. But he said the key was being teachable, being a student. Being a student and not reinventing the wheel. So in approaching the business, he said, keep it simple, stick to the basics, okay? Keep it simple. Don't complicate. If you complicate, you can't duplicate. Stick to the fundamentals and the basics. And the basics of the business are share the product and share the opportunity. Promote the next meeting or event, webinar that's going on. Don't do anything else. Anything else is a distraction. And all distractions are equal. All excuses are equal. But in the very beginning, I knew I could share the product and I could talk to people. And he basically said, you provide the people, we'll provide the presentation. I can do that. And that's all I did. Gang, back then, we didn't even have cell phones. Well, cell phones were just being invented. Fax machines had even, there wasn't that word. You probably don't remember that, right? No. How many people remember the first fax machine? I wonder who they faxed their first. Who did they fax it to? The guy who got the first fax. Who faxed it to? Think about that. So you share the product, share the opportunity, that's all I did. For 3 months, all I did, I was a raving lunatic because I was several $100,000 in debt back 30 years ago. I had to get out of the hole that I was in. So I went to work. But all I did was talk to people, talk to people, talk to people, talk to people, talk to people. I got, in the beginning, kind of messed up on the ones who didn't listen, talk, or join, or didn't see it like I did. But he quickly got me on track. He says, don't worry about those. Just focus on the ones that do and want. He said there's just too many of those out there that need an opportunity and will love the products. And gang, doesn't matter where you go around the world. Remember the global appeal with these products? You go to Italy, they'll say, we're different here. Go to Germany, they're going to say the same thing. Go to Hong Kong, we're different there. Go to Russia, the Russians are different. Here are the two things that are constant, no matter what country you're in, what culture it is, doesn't matter. Two things, guaranteed. Number one, they all love our products. Number two, everyone wants a better way of life. It's as simple as that. So that's really all your focus needs to be. If you're doing anything else other than sharing the product or talking about the business or turning those people onto your mentor, your coach, your team to help you out, you're off track. That's all you need to do. Keep it simple. And I did. So I've always said, if what you want is greater than the resistance you meet, you can attain your dreams. And if your dreams are greater than your fears, you can accomplish anything, especially with us. Thank you, thank you, thank you.